AOC has officially broken her silence after days of mockery and ridicule for her humiliating word salad on the world stage in Munich. She went on Instagram late at night, voice trembling, eyes filled with tears, perhaps a little alcohol on the breath, and she literally begged the world to take her foreign policy expertise seriously. And what resulted, as you can imagine, was a post that was even more humiliating than the one that ended her career. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, celebrating yet another wonderful, glorious day in Trump's golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world and drive Democrats crazy like you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. What the world witnessed over the past 48 hours may be the single most revealing moment in the entire collapse of the modern Democrat Party. And it all centers on a tearful, late-night, drunk posting Instagram Live that has the internet absolutely on fire.
If you think that I don't understand foreign policy because out of hours of discourse about international affairs, I pause to think about one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues that currently exist on Earth, I'm afraid the issue is not my understanding, but rather the problem is perhaps you've gotten adjusted to a president that never thinks before he speaks.
I paused to think. That's her spin. That's her desperate attempt at gaslighting. In case you need a reminder, this is what AOC calls pausing to think.
And to all of you, and Congressman, I'll start with you, would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is a...
Today, Junior?
This is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
That's what she called pausing to think. That's a pause for reflective thought. The obvious problem with that desperate attempt at spin was that her answer demonstrated no thought at all. How could you have paused to think when your answer literally entailed no intelligible thought? I mean, this is of course a very long-standing policy of the United States. What's a very long-standing policy of the United? Committing troops to Taiwan? No, it isn't. No, it's not even remotely. The long-standing policy has been the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979, which legally commits the United States to provide Taiwan with defensive arms and maintain the capacity to resist any use of force that threatens the island's security. But it is strategically ambiguous. There's no specifics to that. And that 5 decades of strategic ambiguity is designed to simultaneously deter China from attacking Taiwan, since they don't know exactly how we'll respond. But it's also there to prevent Taiwan from provoking China. If the United States say, we'll definitely intervene, we'll definitely send troops, that could cause Taiwan to act recklessly and belligerently towards China. So I don't know, and I frankly, no one knows what she was trying to say there. And then she followed that up with another and then said, well, what we're hoping for is that we never get to that point. Now, note, she's saying, we're hoping we never get to the point, which is the very point of, it's the very topic of the question that she's stumbling over. And then she said, we need to make sure that we're moving in all of our economic, research, and global positions to avoid any such confrontation. Move in our research positions? Research? This is the very definition of an incoherent word salad. I said it the other day. The happiest person on the planet after she said that was Kamala Harris, because she's no longer the queen of the word salad. Now AOC is. And AOC is actually trying to spin that word salad as her pausing to think. And then she had the gall to try to make this all about Trump. She tried to blame Trump, and she tried to blame her critics for not being, we're the ones who are not smart enough. We're the ones who don't recognize how thoughtful of an answer she gave. Keep in mind, we didn't even touch on her getting basic geography wrong, right? On Venezuela, when she claimed Venezuela was below the equator. Remember, Dan Quayle was mercilessly hounded by the legacy media for spelling potato wrong. He was mocked by late night comedians, but somehow those same they're not the same anymore, but late night comedy, an oxymoron today, they've suddenly gone silent when AOC humiliates herself on the world stage, no matter, because, as you can see, she's fully busy humiliating herself. We don't need the late night clowns. She's the gift that keeps on giving, which is precisely what the great senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, said the other night.
How can I put this? The Congresswoman is kind of like Vice President Kamala Harris, but with more bartending experience. She has never been accused of being a policy maven. You put her in a presidential primary with Elizabeth Warren or Rahm Emanuel, they will devour her like a light snack. I probably shouldn't say this, but she can get me back. Somebody told me a joke today. They said Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez announced today categorically that she is not a moron. And she went on to say she hasn't even been to Utah, much less embraced their religion. Now, she can get me back. I don't dislike the Congresswoman, but our plan for dealing with her, as I've said before, has always been Operation Let Her Speak. And so far, it's working. And my message to my friend, the Congresswoman, is you go, girl. You just keep it up.
Well, as of the other night on Instagram, Operation Let Her Speak, as you could see, was in full swing. Instead of doing what any serious person would have done, which is take a breath, show a little humility, maybe crack a joke, maybe crack open a book on foreign policy, she went on Instagram, and the only thing cracking was her voice, eyes welling up with tears, and she delivered what can only be described as a world-class meltdown. She was like a baseball player striking out and blaming the pitcher for throwing strikes. But here's where we need to go deeper, because this isn't just about one congresswoman embarrassing herself. This is about something far bigger, something that is plaguing and indeed destroying the entire Democrat Party itself. But first, the crypto markets, they're, shall we say, a little shaky. But this is exactly when patriots win. Let's be clear. Moments like this are unsettling, right? Prices dip, headlines scream, and the so-called experts tell everyday Americans to sit tight and do nothing. But if you studied history, really studied it, you know something crucial. Every major leap forward begins with a pullback. Crypto has never moved in straight lines. It shakes out the weak hands, and then time and time again, it surges higher, rewarding those who understand the moment they were in. This isn't chaos. This is a reset. While political dysfunction and economic uncertainty continue to rattle the system, smart, patriots are doing what they've always done. They're staying calm. They're thinking long term. They're positioning themselves for the rebound. That's why so many families, including my own, are turning to Block Trust IRA, not out of panic, but out of confidence. Their Animus AI technology works around the clock, helping safeguard your assets through volatility, bank disruptions, and market whiplash, so you don't have to stare at charts all day wondering what comes next. But here's the inside line. Animus AI doesn't just play defense. It's lying in wait. It's positioned to be the very first one off the starting blocks the second the bull starts running again. And in crypto, it always runs again. This is about building resilience. This is about protecting your family's future. And yes, this is about being ready when the next move up comes, as it always has. Head on over to turleytalkscrypto.com right now and take advantage of a free $2,500 funding bonus when you get started. I've been a longtime client of Block Trust. I love them. I know you will too. Click on that link below right now. I want you to really think about this with me, because what we witnessed in Munich wasn't just an AOC problem. It was a Democrat problem. It was a window into what happens when an entire political party replaces substance with sloganeering. Ultimately, the reason AOC was so clueless for all the world to see was because the modern Democrat Party has experienced what analysts are calling a profound brain drain. Not just a brain drain where genuinely smart people are leaving the party, but a brain drain where serious thought has been systematically driven out of the party itself and replaced with prefabricated cultural Marxist talking points that require absolutely no intellectual engagement whatsoever. They can't, because the talking points are absurd. Remember, this is the party that tells us math is racist. This is a party that tells us that logic and rational thought are patriarchal. What now passes for intellectual life inside the Democrat Party is a series of rehearsed, prefabricated slogans. Tax the rich, communities of color, equity, social justice, all empty catchphrases that sound like they mean something, but that absolutely crumble the moment anyone asks a follow-up question. And here's the deeper problem. It's not just that the Democrats have stopped thinking. It's that they've created a culture where thinking is actually discouraged. When your entire political framework is built on identity categories, when every policy question gets filtered through the lens of race, gender, and intersectionality, you don't actually need to understand the Taiwan relations. You don't need to know where Venezuela is on a map. You don't need to know the history of the Spanish vaquero tradition. All you need is the right slogan. Accuse your opponents of racism, invoke the global south, say Trump attacked a country just because it's south of the equator, accusing him of racism, of course, and your base will applaud like a bunch of trained seals, even though not a single square inch of that country that Trump attacked is below the equator. That's cultural Marxism in action, gang. It's the substitution of ideology for knowledge, the replacement of analysis with accusation, the elevation of performative emotion over substantive thought. And when that ideology finally gets tested, when it gets put under the spotlight on the world stage, it collapses instantly because there's nothing underneath it. And that's exactly what the world watched happen to AOC in Munich. But there's more here, of course. There's another layer. It might be the most important of all, maybe the actual reason why they're so intellectually defunct at this point. It's the arrogance. Are you noticing that? The utter and total arrogance that plagues the Democrat Party. Because what was AOC's response when the whole world saw that she had nothing up here? Was it humility? Was it, I should have been prepared better? No. It was a temper tantrum. It was tears. It was blame. She blamed Trump. She actually at one point blamed the media for even asking the question. She blamed the very concept of being asked questions. That's the epidemic of arrogance that now plagues the Democrat Party. It's a party that's convinced itself that it is the party of smart people, of educated people, the enlightened people, and therefore any failure cannot, by definition, be their fault. If voters reject you, the voters are stupid. If the media questions you, the media is unfair. If you bomb on the world stage, it's because the world has been so duped by a president who doesn't think before he speaks. It's a hermetically sealed bubble of self-congratulation where no criticism can penetrate, no self-reflection is permitted, and the response to every failure is to cry into an Instagram live and blame somebody else. And that, gang, is why this moment, I believe, matters so much. Because while AOC is having a temper tantrum on Instagram, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was at the same Munich conference delivering what many are calling a historic address, framing the transatlantic alliance not in the tired, hollowed language of a liberal rules-based order that AOC seems mired in, but in explicitly civilizational terms, calling on Europe and America to rediscover their shared Western heritage rooted in Christianity. In a world where China, Russia, India, and the Islamic nations are all organizing around civilizational identities, Rubio made it clear that the West can no longer afford the luxury of pretending it doesn't have one. That's a serious intellectual engagement with the world as it actually is, not as some faculty lounge ideology wishes it were. And so it's no wonder that pundits across the political spectrum, even Democrats, are now openly saying that if AOC is the Democrat nominee in 2028, even as VP, the GOP will have hit the jackpot. The Vance-Rubio ticket is almost assured, and 2028 may turn out to make 2024 look up like just a warm-up act. Because what Munich revealed isn't just that one congresswoman wasn't ready for the world stage. It's that an entire party has traded serious thought for slogans. It's traded policy depth for performative outrage and traded intellectual humility for an arrogance that is absolutely impenetrable. The brain drain is real. The adults have left the Democrat Party, and all that's left are tears, talking points, and humiliating Instagram posts. Hey gang, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you're signed up for Patriot Alerts, my free daily newsletter and weekly wrap-up. Sign up below.